From Transport Topics in Washington, D.C., this is RoadSigns. Here is your host, Seth Clevenger.
Thank you for listening to RoadSigns, the podcast series from Transport Topics that explores the trends and technologies that are shaping the future of trucking. In this episode, we're going to take you to McLeod Software's 2024 user conference held in late September in Charlotte. One of the top themes of that conference was the importance of investing in your business's future, even in a down freight market. To dig into that topic and other news from the conference, I spoke with CEO Tom McLeod about his main takeaways from the show. Let's play that interview now. I'm Seth Clevenger, Managing Editor of Features and Multimedia at Transport Topics, and I'm here in Charlotte at McLeod Software's 2024 user conference. And I have the privilege now to speak with the CEO of McLeod Software, Tom McLeod. Well, Tom, it's always great to talk to you at this event. Actually, right after the opening session here this morning, and you got into some of the highlights and some of your observations of the industry, talking about economic conditions and, of course, the freight rate recession that the industry's been navigating really for the past 2.5 years now. So this has been a pretty soft market, a tough market for trucking companies and freight brokers alike, really for a couple years now and beyond. And despite that, your advice to the audience here was to continue to invest. You invest in your future, invest in your business, even though many of these companies may be pretty cash-strapped at the moment. And maybe just go into that. What's the rationale? What is that message to your customers in the industry at large as they think about the future, even as they continue to go through some pretty tough times?
Well, investing doesn't always involve cash. Investment can mean process improvement. It can mean focus on various parts of a company that need to be improved. When times are busy, then we let things go. And even when things slow down, then people get busy trying to speed them back up again. But that's really a great time. Many times the larger companies are better at this when things slow down because they're confident they're going to get through the downturn or the slow period. But focus on business improvement, better service to customers, problem areas in the business that may need to be addressed. There is some financial investment typically that's required to continue to keep a business viable and to keep it continuously improving, but certainly expenses have to be kept in proportion, and the amount of cash investment might depend on the cash coming in, just to keep things afloat. That's obviously priority number one.
Yeah, and I think it's often the case that when times are a little bit slower, it's not that there's not a lot of freight to move, but in some cases companies moving about the same amount of freight for less money, unfortunately. It can be a pretty good time to reassess, to invest, to improve your operations and get ready for whenever the market turns and you do see an uptick in demand.
Yeah, learning how to make the most of pricing tools for the opportunities that are there in the market, learning how to say no to freight that's not profitable. Those are changes that it's a great time to be making, even under the adverse conditions that we see today.
Yeah, I think it highlights the value now, especially of business intelligence, data science, really using all the information at your disposal to make the right decisions, because it really matters most when it isn't the most robust market. So having some of those tools and using those tools as a aid to the decision-making process really can go a long way.
That's right.
I know that's been an area of focus at McLeod, continuing product development, and another area, of course, I think we've all been talking about lately is artificial intelligence, both within the industry and really society at large. There's this fascination with the development work on that front. And it's still, I think, pretty early days in our industry, but there are ways to automate processes. And McLeod, of course, one of your product features you introduced here on stage was Impact Respond AI. So this is a tool to automate responses via email and messaging, common questions that come in, making the job of that back office worker a little bit easier, a little bit faster. So maybe just tell us a little bit how that tool will work and how that can make a back office worker a little bit more efficient.
Well, it's using the computer to do what computers have been doing now for 40 or 50 years, which is to automate the mundane, automate the repetitive task, and free people up to focus on things that require more thought or more input. And that's the way we'll see the AI solutions roll out. Very practical, very beneficial. Applications that help get information more quickly into the right place so that a better decision can be made, and one person can do more in less time. So that's the applications that we're developing and that we see rolling out with a number of integration partners that we'll be working with in order to offer our customers the widest range of solutions for the opportunities that are there.
Yeah, and these are really support tools, right? For existing employees, making them better, more efficient at their jobs around certain areas. How can we support the workers and make them be a little bit better, a little bit more efficient? It's not sort of this idea of, hey, we're going to completely automate, your core freight operations. I mean, that is just not what we're talking about here. It's these are tools and augmenting, the industry's workforce rather than replacing. Maybe just speak to that and maybe some, maybe a little bit of a reality check to some of the hype that gets out there sometimes on what AI can and can't do in the near term.
Well, even years ago, articles would paint the scenario of computers doing all the work to match up the loads and dispatch the trucks. It seemed like 20 years ago there were articles talking about, the only human intervention required was some work to come in and keep the office clean. I don't know why you would need a person for that, if you had a system that could automatically match up the loads, match drivers with the loads. At the time, autonomous vehicles weren't contemplated. But again, computers have been, helping to improve productivity since the introduction. That's what AI will do. Is really just another computer program that requires enormous amounts of compute power and memory, but still just an extension. And we'll have to learn how to use it. Again, other tools that have come along have taken time to figure out, how to use these to our best advantage. But we're, again, really encouraging to see the practical applications that are emerging, and we're confident this will be a big benefit when used properly.
Yeah, and here we are in the exhibit hall. Of course, many of your partners and exhibitors here are also developing various use cases or applications that involve AI in some capacity to some extent. So it's an interesting space where, of course, at McLeod, you are investing your own R&D dollars into this development work, but of course you're also very much leveraging the broader technology ecosystem in our industry. So maybe just speak to that strategy of both developing in-house and also partnering with the many suppliers and vendors that are part of the industry.
Well, as broad as the industry is, as varied as the requests are for the capability, no one company will be able to do it all. We see ourselves as an enabler and really maybe a hub of information exchange in order to allow our customers to access whatever other products are being successful in the marketplace and would match their needs and the ability to suit their particular customer requirements. So that's the role we intend to play. That's been very successful for us over the years, and I'm sure that'll be the way we need to go at this point as well.
Yeah, another topic of discussion that, for your existing customer base, of course, is the introduction of the next generation of Loadmaster. That process, pilots underway, and looking at a rollout down the line with the web-based user interface. Maybe a little bit of guidance to your customers on that process moving forward and what they can expect to see in that next generation of Loadmaster and Power Broker as well.
Well, it's a complete redesign of workflow and user interface. We're taking advantage of all the modern tools. We're getting guidance and input from our customer influencer group, several dozen companies that give us feedback and direction. And then we have it set up where our customers can transition, really at their pace.
Yeah.
And incorporate the new capability. And over time, of course, this will lead to more and more capability as we go forward.
Yeah. Another topic before I let you go, Tom, I always like to touch on is cybersecurity. That's more and more something that's top of mind in our industry. I think the industry is much more aware of this topic than perhaps it was 5 to 10 years ago. But there's also some positive signs as well that maybe that during the peak when we saw so many ransomware attacks, there's been some movement to mitigate that. What are you seeing in terms of the cybersecurity landscape for the transportation industry, and maybe go into some of the steps you're taking in McLeod to help protect your customers from some of the threats out there?
Well, we're continuing a strong educational campaign. Certainly with our cloud service group, we've maxed out security, but the bad actors are getting worse. If they want in, they'll find a way in. A week and a half ago, the government having a breach of 240 million Social Security numbers. If bad enough groups want access to the data, they're after healthcare data, they're after identity data, and they're getting it. Now, I mentioned this morning, we've seen a reduction in the ransomware attacks in our customer base. But when there is an attack and it's successful, the ransom requests are way more than they were 5 years ago. We had a customer recently that had an attack, and the ransom was $3 million. This is for, to a mid-sized business. That was just way out of line. So, it would appear it may get worse before it gets better. But there are now a lot of known steps that can be taken. Most companies can prevent an attack if they're vigilant, but still very difficult to maintain 100%.
Yeah, and also being prepared for the possibility and likelihood that it will happen to your company eventually.
Right.
And I think
certainly, having an off-site backup and a restoration plan is crucial.
Yeah.
If you do get penetrations.
Yeah, and hopefully the whole industry has gotten the message now that you're not going to fly under the radar. A lot of these companies that have experienced this are mid-sized companies. It's not just government data. It's not just the huge corporations that are experiencing this. It's a lot of mid-sized companies that are not well known, that are sometimes being hacked and hit with some of these ransomware attacks.
If you're connected to the internet, and everybody is, you're a target.
Yeah. Maybe a final question I'll leave you with, Tom, here. Just maybe your outlook for the rest of this year and moving into 2025, your thoughts on what to expect in the freight transportation industry. You touched on this a little bit in the opening session, but just any guidance or thoughts you'd provide to the industry at large.
Well, we're seeing, as I mentioned, a fair number of companies that have learned to manage under the current reality.
Yeah.
And that are making investments and preparing and modifying their business plan in order to set the stage for growth. And in a number of cases, to actually grow,
Yeah.
in the current business climate. We're continuing to attract new companies coming our way that are looking for additional and better capability to meet the needs of their customers, many of whom are doing well. The amount of freight that's moving is not down much. There's still a fair amount going on in the economy, so there's still opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it'll be interesting to watch, and it's always valuable for me to attend this show and meet with a lot of familiar faces and kind of get the pulse of what's happening on the technology side of the industry. So I think it's valuable for, of course, your customers, but also for those of us in the trade press and industry observers who are keeping tabs on how things are going.
Right.
So appreciate the invitation. Always enjoy the conference, and thanks for taking the time out of a very busy day here at the user conference to chat with me for this reporting.
Well, Seth, thanks very much for coming. We appreciate you helping us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. As you've heard during this podcast, trucking and logistics companies have been navigating a freight rate recession for more than 2 years now, but there are still opportunities for companies to win new business, capture market share, and build for the future. You can check out my full coverage from McLeod Software's 2024 user conference and keep up to date on all the latest trucking industry news by subscribing to Transport Topics at ttn.ws/ttsubscribe. You can also text TT-subscribe to 571-622-0001. And of course, we'll be back soon with a fresh episode of RoadSigns. Until then, I'm Seth Clevenger. Thank you for listening.